Morning vlog. It is Friday, May 17th, day 1 on the road for me, and I am in New York City. Let me explain what I'm about to do for the next couple months. Long story short, I am going to be backpacking for the next 6 months of my life.
And now,
my niggas,
our feature presentation.
Alright, bro. After many hours on the road. My name is Revere, and in May of 2024, I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin. For the first time in my life, I was given complete free will to do whatever I wanted. No more school, no job, yet no kids, no girl, nothing. So I set off to live a dream I've had since I was 14 years old, traveling from Europe all the way to Singapore, completely overland. You might be wondering, why Europe to Singapore? Well, the destination was an easy choice. I was born in Singapore, so this was just a really long journey home for me. And growing up, I'd always dreamt of going to Europe and following in the footsteps of the old merchants and travelers, seeing everything that lay in between Europe and East Asia. So a week after graduating, I left behind my friends, my family, the life that I'd known and one that I loved, and I flew to New York City, unsure of what lay ahead for me. What are we doing today, King?
What we're doing today, we're gonna go get a soda. We're only 10 minutes away.
Quintessential New York right here. The year before, I'd spent my summer living and working in New York City, so I had a couple friends here that I came to visit. Seeing familiar faces in familiar places again made me feel like I hadn't even left home yet. But I came to New York as I had a flight to catch from here. After a couple days hanging out with my friends again, I got on Singapore Airlines flight SQ25, which is a daily service from New York JFK to Singapore via Frankfurt. And as I got off the plane in Frankfurt to begin this long journey home, the thought came over me that while in another 16 hours this plane would touch Singaporean soil, it would take me another 200 days to do the same. Morning vlog, I've just landed in Frankfurt. I had the exit row on this flight. I didn't pay for it. I had so much leg room. I had pretty good sleep. So I'm gonna go cross immigration right now, and I have a ride. Hi, Alex.
hello.
So this was the real start to the overlanding, and at this point I could not even imagine what I had in store for me. But in the first few days of this long journey, I was greeted with a nice taste of home. All of the friends that I met in the first week in Germany, I'd lived with in university. Half of them exchange students and the other half local students, just like me. This was a little cultural exchange moment we'd been planning for quite a while, and it was the perfect way to kickstart my trip.
It's 5:30 in the morning in New York right now.
This is chapter 1 of Frankfurt to Singapore overland, Central Europe. Thank you.
And then like two things reach each other.
Yeah, it's where I study.
Then the guy that's
My university college.
Say something in German to me. I only got
There's so many dice.
This is Revere's favorite sentence, and it's ich habe meinen Kapuzenpullover verloren.
Kapuzenpulle.
Yeah, right. Is this wrong?
One more for the ride. You don't wanna go? Go!
In my first week in Germany with lots of good friends, we had lots of beer, lots of home-cooked meals, and spent lots of time with one another. This first week for me was so wholesome and is one of the most memorable weeks of the entire trip for me. But all good things must come to an end though, and at the end of the week, I said a sad goodbye to everyone and continued on to Slovenia. I'm in Bled right now, here to see Lake Bled, and look at that. That is so beautiful. I'm just left here all by myself with this view that I have dreamt of seeing since I was like 13 on Tumblr. This is so amazing. I spent a couple of days here and met some really cool people all around, but honestly, I was suffering from Germany withdrawals after the highest of highs with my friends the past week. After a couple days, I was very happy to leave Slovenia behind, as my next stop was Budapest, where I met two friends from home, Parker and McKenna. We didn't really know each other that well, so we were forced to get to know each other really quickly, which made for a really good time. But seriously, I did enjoy the classic Euro summer backpacker party hostel experience with them here, and I even stayed with them all the way through to the next stop in Vienna. Me and McKenna are gonna go see an organ recital in this church without Parker. Hi vlog, today is like the 4th of June, I think. It's day 19 or 20 on the road for me, something like that. I haven't really vlogged much the past couple of days because I've been kind of enjoying the moment, if you will. I am in Vienna, Austria right now. It's a beautiful place. At this point, I was starting to get tired, so I spent a lot of time inside, and with all of that time, I made a lot of new friends here. Vienna was my favorite European city on this trip, even though I barely left my hostel, because of all the time that I spent with the people that I met there. And this inspired me for the rest of my trip to continue seeking out those connections with new people along the way. What I've realized from my time here in Vienna, what really gave me the most fulfillment was meeting people and getting to know people. Everyone that you meet has their own story and everything. And I think that's beautiful. And that sums up the first 3 weeks of this trip, from seeing my friends in New York to spending every waking moment in Germany with friends as well. My best memories were not of the sights and the sounds, but the memories made with the people around me. It's my last day here in Vienna, and honestly in like Central Europe. So with that, I left Vienna with a heavy heart, and it lives on today as my favorite European city on this trip, thanks to those new hostel friends I made and my silly times with Parker and McKenna. And even though I didn't see much of the city, I know I'll be back, because I know that Vienna will always wait for me. After leaving Vienna, my first days in Eastern Europe were in Croatia, and I will be honest, I was thoroughly disappointed with the high prices, hordes of tourists, and general lack of anything really interesting, but maybe that's because I spent most of my time in Split, the Adriatic's palace of abject degeneracy. The highlight of Split for me was seeing Annabelle again, whom I first met in Slovenia. Here, she peer pressured me into joining a party boat tour, which was an interesting experience, but at least I got to jump into the water. I also felt homesick for the very first time here in Split as I sat with Annabelle and talked a little bit about our lives back home. As I continued down the coast, this thought of home stuck with me, where in Kotor I met Liam and Itai, 2 German girls in my hostel dorm, and a couple of other people. I wasn't missing my physical home at all. In fact, I was very happy to be out of Austin and the US, but the idea of home was starting to feel a lot more intangible as I grew more comfortable with the people I only just met for a couple hours.
Okay, I'm not used to do it on the floor because I was used to do it.
At this point, a week on the Adriatic coast, I was running on fumes, so I retreated inland to Kosovo, where I found a hostel to wind down for a while, volunteer at, and save some money in the process. I've been staying here in Pristina Backpackers Hostel for about a week and a half now, and I want to quickly show you guys what I've been doing here in the city. I've been staying here for free, which has been really nice, but in exchange I have to work for about 4 hours a day. So I have to change a couple of beds, clean the floors a little bit. I have to change all the beds in this room here, so that's gonna take a while. We have a big group coming in today, so we have, I think, the entire hostel full. So it's gonna be a really busy day. Let's get started. Let's go.
Thank you, USA. You are my best friend. You are the peacekeeper. You are the legend.
Pristina itself is a pretty boring city, but in my off days from the hostel, I made it out to Prizren, the cultural capital of Kosovo, and Peha out in the Albanian Alps. I really enjoyed Peha, where I met some really cool people. Ollie came out with me from Pristina, and in our hostel room was Jack and John, 2 American hitchhikers who gave me tips from my own attempt at hitching a week later.
Very German, very quick. Right?
I'm from Germany.
Last night was good, but now I'm suffering. Trying to make it back to Pristina today, so we can get our bus to Skopje next. I was most excited to come to Skopje to see this. Alexander.
What's the verdict?
I think you're bigger than Alexander. North Macedonia was an interesting place, and here I really got to taste the political tensions I was expecting out of former Yugoslavia. Interestingly, the country stays pretty neutral with its Slavic neighbors, but has massive beef with Greece. My most memorable moments here in this country were getting bedbugs in Ohrid and going out on the lake the day after. It was simultaneously the worst day on my trip and the most beautiful. It's crazy how traveling does that to you. Untouched beach, lake all around. No one in the water, it's so nice. So this morning, I had bedbugs in my bed. What happened was I was up scrolling on my phone until like 1 or 2 o'clock last night, and I felt something scurry across me. Actually, it was like 5 scrambling over me, and I never had that problem before, so I was kind of scared. I also hitchhiked down to Greece from Ohrid, which was really fun. And for those 2 experiences, I have separate YouTube videos on my channel if you'd like to check those out. It was a really good time in North Macedonia. Goodbye, North Macedonia. Hello, Greece. Greek hospitality, man. Came here for an espresso, and I got that and a bottle of water. Good morning, vlog. Today is July 3rd. I am in Thessaloniki, Greece. It is so beautiful already from what I saw yesterday, but I have not seen much of the city at all. I'm just gonna go wander around, see what I can get up to. But number 1 on the agenda, Greek food. I am starving. Greece was probably my favorite country on my entire journey from Frankfurt to Singapore, and I also have a YouTube video up on my channel for my time there. I love the ancient culture, the Mediterranean vibes, the weather, the food, the hospitality. Every single moment of my time there was simply fantastic. And I actually ended up here kind of on accident. I'd never been before, but I wanted to save Greece for its own trip in the future, as I knew it could stand on its own legs. But when I was volunteering in that hostel in Pristina just a week or 2 prior, I was sitting in the common area of the hostel. My hostel manager had Netflix on, and he was watching a series on Alexander the Great, so I joined him in watching. I kind of half-watched with him at first, but then I got so engrossed in the story that I was like, wait a minute. Macedonia, where Alexander is from, is on the way towards Turkey, where I was headed. So I decided to make the detour, and it was so worth it. While I was in Thessaloniki, I also climbed Mount Olympus, the highest mountain in Greece. I made a couple of friends here, but I will save that story for a future video. And of course, the highlight of my week in Greece was seeing the statue of Alexander himself, sitting and staring out at the Aegean Sea, dreaming of all the lands that I still have yet to cross, just as Alexander himself did over the next couple of weeks. But here I am now in Greece, and it's all thanks to this guy, Alexander the Great.
Erasmus,
Ryan, where are you?
I'm going to Istanbul.
Right now?
Yeah. Alright vlog, today is day 1 in Istanbul, and I've already made some friends on the streets, so I would say it's a good sign for my 1 month here in Istanbul. I was kind of worried. I am currently homeless, but there's someone coming to get me soon, so I'm just gonna sit here and wait.
On the 8th of July, after almost 2 months on the road, I made it to the border of Europe. If the first 15 minutes of this video were any indication, you could probably tell that by this time, I was exhausted. I'd done so much, seen so much through Europe, that what I needed most at this point in time was a place to crash for a little bit. So I went online and I found a volunteering opportunity at an English studio here in Istanbul, where I had a free place to stay in exchange for a couple hours of teaching English a day. With this gig, I ended up in Istanbul for a month, giving me plenty of time to really feel the city. I graduated from the University of Texas, and now I am happy to be here in Istanbul, teaching English for a while. This was what almost every day of my month in Istanbul looked like. English lessons in the evening from 7:30 to 9:30 at the Kadıköy branch of English Spoken Cafe. For only 2 hours of lessons a day, 5 days a week, I was given this sofa bed to sleep on in the cafe, which we had to keep secret from our students. And I shared this space with Andre from Germany, who quickly became my best friend after spending so much time with him in close proximity.
Today's Friday night. We're starting our night out here in Kadıköy with a scam for a dinner. It's $10. For this, Scam.
Hanging out with Andre was so much fun as he was older than me and had a wealth of life experience and different perspectives that really aligned with the kind of person that I wanted to be when I reached his age. He also spoke really good Turkish as he'd been learning for many years, and he formed a pretty robust social network while he was there, which he happily shared with me. All the Turkish that I learned while there was thanks to Andre and his friends. Through all July, I didn't film much as I found a routine again, and I really didn't leave the neighborhood much either. Kadıköy is on the Asian side of Istanbul and is probably the most liberal, open part of the city, as there were Western-style cafes all around, lots of young people, and a nice laid-back vibe that was very much appreciated away from the hecticness of the rest of Istanbul. So for my first 2 weeks, I enjoyed a lot of alone time in the mornings and afternoons as Andre, who was wide-eyed and just starting out his year-long sabbatical, went out to explore the city without me. This alone time gave me space to process and reflect on my first 2 months on the road so far and start to think ahead at all of Asia that still stood before me. You see, going through Europe was pretty easy so far, as there is only one viable route eastward that naturally ends at the bottleneck here in Istanbul. But beyond Turkey, I had many different options, and I had to begin thinking of visa requirements, closed borders, and of course, my personal safety. Let me show you the 3 options that I had to head east from Istanbul in order of safest to craziest. The first and easiest option was to make it to Baku and cross the Caspian Sea to Kazakhstan. I've seen plenty of reports on this trip before and it seems pretty simple, but the only problem was that Azerbaijan closed all of its land borders during COVID and they're still closed, so I couldn't make it to Baku overland. I had to fly in and I did not want to do that. My second option was through Iran, but it's Iran. And in the summer of 2024, tensions were high with Israel and I wasn't too sure about going through with this. My last option was through the Russian Caucasus to Kazakhstan, but it's Russia. And even barring the war of Ukraine, the Russian Caucasus is notoriously lawless and unsafe. So in between my silly English lessons and outings with Andre, my time in Istanbul was a reality check for me as I began to realize all of the tough traveling that I still had yet to do before Singapore. And after seeing me struggle with indecision, Andre actually encouraged me to take a little more risk and try out Iran, as he visited many years ago and loved it. He also introduced me to an Iranian friend of his, Anna, who also encouraged me to go, and I figured that if a local tells me Iran is safe, then it should be fine. And everything was fine until August 1st. Alright, vlog. Today is Thursday, August 1st. I'm in the cafe in Istanbul right now. A couple days ago, the Hamas leader was assassinated in Iran. I am trying to go to Iran in a couple weeks, so I e-registered myself on the MFA portal, and I just got a text today from the MFA asking for them to call me about my trip to Iran, so we're gonna see what they have to say. Wow. Alright, let's see.
Hello, basic to how does what's your name? Review?
Review, yes.
I'm Daniel calling from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Singapore. And the reason why I'm calling is because you actually registered the trip, or you registered to Tehran, correct?
Yes.
To Iran. We have no diplomatic missions in Iran. So in case if you need any consular assistance, it constrains our ability to extend consular assistance if you need one.
Yes, I understand that, yeah.
Is that you are still keen on traveling to Iran, is it?
I don't know, I think...
Or will you be reconsidering your travels? I mean, for us, we would advise you to reconsider your travel to Iran, basically.
This is not the first time the ministry would call me, and in the same way when someone tells you not to do something, it makes you want to do it more. I grew more curious about Iran. In these few days, I had been talking to my local students about the possibility of me going to Iran, and I did get mixed responses. Some said I was crazy, others said I'd be perfectly fine, and all my friends from home that I consulted also begged me not to go. All except one, my young college roommate, Zach.
There's like a solid 3% chance that you're dead or you're taken prisoner, right?
3% chance.
It's like 97% chance you're safe. And those are odds I would roll. Like, if you went to Northern Syria, that's like a 30% chance something bad happens. That's when it's like, okay, don't do that. You should just do it. You're still young enough that you can do something like this.
You're right. but I didn't want to spend all my time in Istanbul worrying about stuff out of my control, and with August upon us, it felt like the changing of the guard here at English-spoken cafe Kadıköy. Andre was about to leave after spending a month here, and Mirko, a new volunteer from Italy, came to replace him. My last days in Istanbul were still spent here around Kadıköy, and my fondest memories of my month here overall are of all the cats out on the street and all the people that I saw on my daily neighborhood walks. Bakery lady Nuray, whom I got bread from every afternoon, Döner shop Uncle Aziz, whom I occasionally got a kebab from if I was hungry before class, and Matt, the server at Leylak, a meze place that I like to go to after class. Of course, after a month here, I saw the main tourist attractions and stuff, but one of the highest of highlights of my entire journey from Frankfurt to Singapore was getting to live in Kadıköy and having a boring routine amidst all the crazy traveling. I will always be grateful for my time here with Andre and Mirko, Onur and Kaan, all the students I got to spend time with, and all the people that I met right here in Kadıköy.
Good morning vlog. Today is Sunday, August 4th. It is currently 5:22 in the morning, and I'm walking down my street here in Kadıköy for the last time. I spent the last month here, and unfortunately none of my best cat friends are out here to see me off, but we're catching an early train to Ankara, and after that it's gonna be another 26 hours on the Doğu Express all the way out to Kars. So I'm not gonna yap on too long, but just wanted to say goodbye to Kadıköy and get on this train. Let's go.
After staying in Istanbul for a month, leaving behind the city was bittersweet. I was sad to be leaving a place that I called home, but also itchy to get on the road again. And from here, this is where I felt like the traveling truly began. I had a phone call with the ministry about Iran again to kickstart my journey out west.
I just wanted to drop in and check on me because apparently flights out of Iran have been cancelled recently.
Then it was onward to Ankara, where I had enough time to see the mausoleum for Atatürk, the founder of modern Turkey, before getting the train out east to the other side of Turkey.
This is the Doğu Express, which means the Eastern Express. It goes from here, Ankara, all the way straight to Kars on the other side of the country, 26 hours.
I am a big fan of long-distance trains. I think it's the most romanticized way to travel. But I got on the Doğu Express because I felt like I had enough of Turkey after a month in Istanbul, and I was itching to escape to Georgia. But on the train, I met Simon, and he convinced me to stay a little longer in Turkey.
He's about 73 years old actually, so he's quite old, but he's a really cool guy. I had a good conversation with him last night, and I think I will be staying in the same hotel as him because we're going to an old ruined city, something like that, tomorrow. It's called Ani, so I'm excited to see an old Armenian city tomorrow.
Great, it smells like cigarette smoke. Love that. The city of Kars, at the end of the Doğu Express, is one of the furthest, most far-flung Turkish cities away from Istanbul, and Ani, this ancient Armenian city, is about an hour's drive away from Kars, right on the border with Armenia.
I never expected to come to Ani.
The city was first built around the 900s, I think. It is one of the most important Armenian cities. I think it was the capital of one of the Armenian kingdoms. It's quite contentious today because it lies on the Turkish side of the border. And right there, right across that way is Armenia. I was not expecting to be here at all. I did want to come, but I just figured it would be a little too expensive and troublesome to come by myself. So I'm glad I met Simon on the train, on the Doğu Express,
We're here together. There's a lot of animosity between Turkey and Armenia, and I don't want this video to be too political, but as I stood in Ani among Armenian ruins but on Turkish soil and looking out over at Armenia, over a border that is uncrossable, I felt the weight of all the history and ethnic tensions in this region in that moment. In 2 weeks, I'd be standing on the other side of that border looking back at Turkey, and over my entire journey from Frankfurt to Singapore, the politics of this region was one of the most fascinating and tragic that I learned about. This is one of the most intact buildings here in Ani. Unfortunately, it is a little defaced. There is a lot of graffiti on here, but it is beautiful. Look at that vaulted ceiling. I spent the rest of the day wandering around Kars, and the sleepiness of the city was in stark contrast from Istanbul. This was a very, very different side of Turkey, quite literally as well. But as I mentioned earlier, I was almost starting to wince at the sound of Turkish, and I was ready to head over to Georgia for a different cultural feel. So unfortunately, I didn't spend much time in this region, but now that I've gotten a taste of this side of the world, Eastern Turkey and the Kurdish regions are high on my bucket list of places to revisit in the future. Good morning, vlog. Today is Wednesday, August 7th. I'm supposed to be going to Georgia today. I am going to Georgia today, but it is 10:30 right now in the morning. The bus left at 10 o'clock, so I'm so stupid. This day 83 of the trip, was probably my second worst day so far since leaving Frankfurt, and again, same as the bedbug day in Ohrid. Horrible day, but one of the most beautiful. Crazy how traveling does that to you. I was supposed to head to Georgia with Simon, but since I missed the bus, I never got to say goodbye to him. But that was the least of my concerns, as since I left 6 hours later than planned, I reached the Turkish border city of Hopa at 10 p.m. and there were no buses over the border anymore. I feel like this is one of those instant, quick decision-making moments, because I am gonna have to find a place to stay tonight here if I can't get a bus to Batum. But it's days like these that really make a weary traveler believe in divine intervention, because I was able to get across the Georgian border. We are about to cross into Kyrgyzstan. This story was a whole ordeal that might find its way into a separate video in the future, but it gave me a very good last impression of Turkey, and with that, I was in Kyrgyzstan. Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Hi.
Hello,
This is Richard here from Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Yes. On my first day in Georgia, I had a very important phone call. Not with the ministry, though I had enough of them by now. A friend from home phoned in to check on me. I met Hugo a couple months before when I was in Uzbekistan for winter break, and we'd kept in contact after that trip. He saw that I was doing this big trip, so he called to check if he could join me here in Georgia.
Yeah, exactly this one.
Yeah.
I also found some not so expensive flights coming from Lyon. So I could join. I will arrive the 13th of August, so in 5 days.
And just like that, I have a buddy. I'm so excited to have a travel buddy, because, you know, meeting people on the road is really fun and it's good, but it's nice to have a familiar face to travel with and a constant to travel with as well. So with that in the plans, I had 5 days to kill before my rendezvous with Hugo in Kutaisi. Somewhere along the way to Georgia, I heard about a 3 to 4 day through hike from Mestia to Ushguli, and so I made it out to Mestia to begin this trail. It was a very beautiful hike, but also very tough, as I had never done through hiking before, carrying everything I needed for 3 days on my back, and I also didn't have the right shoes. After the first day, I met a fellow hiker, Loy, who was also worn out and unsure about continuing. So she propositioned that we give up the hike and head to Kutaisi, where she had a nice homely hostel and a couple of friends waiting for her there. Bye bye. No. After only 1 day of hiking, we hitchhiked back to town. I had a couple days of rest in Kutaisi waiting for Hugo, and my time here was so healing thanks to Loy and her friends at Hostel Forest, as well as Rusty, a 73-year-old Oracle-like guy. And the conversations that we had and the advice shared made me really, really thankful for my time in Kutaisi. In the middle of August, in this very foreign land, I had a nice feeling of home again when Hugo came to join me in Tbilisi. I'd met so many new faces on the trip so far, and that is pretty exhausting in itself, so it was nice to travel with someone familiar and dependable for a change. It's also much easier to meet locals when in a pair, and we got a taste of Georgian hospitality very quickly in Tbilisi. And just like how I felt back in Vienna, my best memories of Georgia were not the sights and the sounds, but just having a good friend to spend time and share experiences with. Naming every country in the world. I'm on 192. I have 4 more.
I'm at 182.
Yes, I win. Didi Madloba, Georgia. We are now going to Armenia. How do you say we go?
Nous allons
à Yerevan en l'Arménie. Hugo and I spent about a week in Georgia together, and then we moved on to Armenia, which I enjoyed a lot more. Of course, border crossings in this part of the world can be sketchy sometimes, but we had each other and we made it to Yerevan safely.
Hier encore, j'avais 20 ans, je caressais le temps et jouais de la vie comme on joue de l'amour, et je vivais la nuit sans compter sur mes jours qui fuyaient dans le temps. J'ai fait tant de projets qui sont restés en l'air, j'ai fondé tant d'espoirs qui se sont envolés, que je reste perdu ne sachant où aller, les yeux cherchant le ciel mais le cœur mis en terre.
Perhaps the best part of traveling with Hugo was the different perspective that he offered, and what he knows best is being French. For lots of French people, the country of Armenia is well associated with the French-Armenian singer Charles Aznavour, whom I had never even heard of before. And so Yerevan had a very romantic feel to me as I learned about and listened to a lot of Aznavour's music here. But the city has another more tragic side as the capital of modern Armenia. Almost everywhere you go in Yerevan, you can see Mount Ararat looming in the distance. The mountain is the national symbol of Armenia, but it lies entirely within Turkish territory. I cannot even imagine how demoralizing that must be for the Armenian people, and I felt the same solemn way here that I felt on the other side of the border back in Ani. But Armenia is a very resilient nation, and learning about its history, especially with all of its neighbors, was very interesting. The rest of the country too, beyond Yerevan, was so fascinating. I felt like I could spend another month or more just slowly seeing Armenia.
Oh, thank you very much.
We just got picked up by some random van.
Well, guy, I would say. They were like super smiley, just say this. Go on, go on.
Unfortunately, I did not have a month for Armenia, and neither did Hugo, so before long he had to head back to France. My time in Georgia and Armenia was so memorable thanks to Hugo, and I'm very grateful he came out to join me and that we were able to share this experience together. After Hugo left, I had another 3 days of horizontal time in Yerevan, much needed rest after the past couple of weeks. It was also time for me to mentally prepare myself for the next big step on this trip. It is the 29th of August right now. I am in Yerevan, Armenia, as you can see from Ararat in the distance. And in about 24 hours, I will be on a bus to Tehran in Iran. Now, it's needless to say that I am a little nervous. I've been nervous for the past month already. All the people that I've met in this past month have really assuaged my fears. I'm feeling much better now. I'm actually really excited about going to Iran tomorrow, but it's just that unknown, right? That I'm a little bit nervous about. I think it's a good feeling because I've traveled so much already that I don't really get this feeling that much anymore. So it's exciting. I am really excited, but also really scared. So we'll see what tomorrow has to offer, and it's on to the next big adventure. For now, I'll sit here, enjoy this view, and reflect on the decisions that have brought me to this point. The next morning, my last day in Armenia, I paid one last visit to the man above, then I packed my bags and I booked a Yandex to the bus station. It felt like I was staring into an abyss, into the great unknown, but that feeling excited me. On August 30th, 106 days since leaving Austin, Texas, I crossed the Rubicon into the Islamic Republic of Iran.